So, what should we talk about? How's everything? Majama?
I've been feeling so much resistance and also shyness and hiding somehow. And shame again. Because somehow I'm not able to follow what you're saying again, even though I was, and I'm not. So this is they're just saying what the mind is saying, just to want to let it go. So much, yeah. Shame of being judged because this, because I keep following the mind somehow. I don't know what is happening, but just.
Alright, so let's see if we can start by really saying what is it that I'm saying that you must follow and which part of that you're not able to do. So we can make it quite specific to it.
Yes. Well,
so let me help you.
Yes.
So fundamentally, what am I saying? Fundamentally, I am saying that God is here, isn't it? And the way to find God is intuitive. The way to find God is not through our senses, not through some objective perception, neither through any sort of thinking, high thinking, the highest thinking will not get us to God. So the fact that God is here can become our living experience only intuitively. That's the fundamental of what I'm saying. Now, for many of you, you can confirm this as your living experience and you say, yes, I do find this God. Then I say, okay, once you have found it, then you must live in the presence of that light rather than living in the ego shadow. Yes? And how to live in the presence of that light? To not go with any narrative, judgment, conceptual understanding from the mind, but trust that very light, the Sadguru presence, God's light, the Atma, Holy Spirit, whatever name you want to give to that, live in that, live with that for guidance, for insight, for revelation about the truth, for everything that we may need or we may think we need. Rely only on God. And all that it takes to do that is to remain open and empty, which is to allow these thought patterns to come and go, but not giving them any belief and therefore no identification. Isn't it? So, all the rest that I may talk about, which may be in terms of humility, faith, integrity, generosity, contentment, all of that is just helpful things to help us remain open and empty. So, That is a short gist of all that I'm talking about, isn't it? Of course, I've expressed it in hundreds of different ways, and I continue to probably express it in so many different ways. But this is the fundamental. Now, when I'm giving you the good news that God is here and you can find God and you have found God, then how can we value something else, you see, and therefore resist? You see? So either we don't feel like the God I'm talking about is the God. Yeah? We may feel like it's just some feeling of God or something like that. Because if I told you even that the most important person in the world is coming into this room right now, you see, you will want to meet that person and not value what your head is saying, at least for that time. But I am telling you something which is much beyond the most valuable person, most important person in the world. I am talking about that very being in the light of which a gazillion universes will come and go as if they happen in a blink. That is the God that I am speaking of. See? So either there is a lack of faith about that, as if, maybe I'm deluded, or maybe there's a lack of faith in terms of your own discovery, that you're doubting whether the being that you're encountering is the very same God which is worthy of all our reverence. But if none of these things are true, then how is it possible to go with the lame offerings from the mind saying, but what about your relationship? But what about, how is it even possible? Because we're talking about God on one hand, and what do we have to have on the other hand for it to compete for our focus and attention and time? This is the magic of Maya. That on one hand is the highest force in the universe, in the light of which we don't need anything at all. On the other hand, they are insignificant grains of sand, which through belief in the narrative we make to be as important or more important than God. That is the only way to resist, isn't it?
Is there such a thing really?
Is there such a thing?
With the God, what you are saying, like you said, in a second will create so much.
Yes.
Billions of universes.
Yes.
That is what, at least whenever I try to think,
Yes.
not think,
Yeah.
do whatever contemplation, whatever
Yeah.
you call. Really is, creation is there. And
Yes.
reason I don't know why.
Yes.
But what you saying,
Yes.
this God,
Yes.
is it really there? I just want to know.
Yes. Yes. Either it is really there, or I'm a trickster and a liar. No, those are the two. Or I'm deluded.
This is not about I trust you. It's not about but is it really there?
Yes.
Because if it is there,
How can the trust be there and the question be there?
Sometimes for children we say something to. so that is okay.
And I'm treating you fully like grown up.
I accept, but
Well,
this card, one card.
Yes. So let me just say that it is not the truth what I'm saying, because what is actually there is much more than what I'm saying. So it's not an exaggeration, it is a limiting definition, whatever I've said. The immensity of the presence, of whose presence it is that we can encounter, the immensity of that makes me awestruck. every day more and more, every moment more and more. The immensity and the ability for us to encounter this and ultimately encounter it as our very own self fills me with so much gratitude and joy and feelings for which there are no names. So you can trust me, but trust that what I can share is just the tip of the iceberg of who is really here in your heart, at your spiritual core. It's the one that your mind can never fathom, can never come close to fathoming. And this is beautiful because I can point to that which is unfathomable. And your mind cannot digest what I'm saying. And yet, because you trust and love me, then you are stuck. So then you have to pick between your mind's resistance and between my testimony, which I am promising is truthful, and promising that if anything, it is an underestimation of the one that is, not an overestimation or an exaggeration. Now, your move is to either run or die. Your move is to either run or die. Because in the light of this reality, what you take yourself to be cannot persist. It has to be burnt. Room is created for the truth when the false dies. So this holy death, while the prana shakti still continues to play out in this body, this is the true open and empty. We have to die to ourselves to truly meet God. But I cannot force it on you because you always uh, can decide how you will play because you are consciousness itself. So you may choose to run, and run doesn't mean run from satsang or run from the master. You can just sit here and avoid everything that is being said. Just like, it's fine. I'll just sit here. I like the peace. But what he's saying, no, that's too much, too much. So you could avoid in this way, or you could resist, like the brother earlier was saying that you are resisting meeting it because it sounds scary. Emptiness sounds scary to the one that doesn't exist anyway. It sounds scary. But if you continue to remain in satsang and be open to what is being shared, then you have to die while you're still alive. Because there's not enough room for God and you. So to remain living in God's light, we cannot be personal, we cannot be individualistic, we cannot be selfish. So if you can find a metaphor for this, I am saying that if the purest river in the universe is flowing in your backyard, what are you doing digging a well? What is it for? Is the need to be somebody that much that you will miss the greatest gift, the highest way to live, because you want to glorify a non-existent ego so much? Because all you have to give up is your narrative. Can you resist without a narrative? There has to be some story on the basis of which you can say, but what about me? And you don't say, what about me? You will say, what about my relationships, or my money, or my security, or my future, or my something. But basically, it is, what about me? What about you? If a million of us were working on glorifying one ego, suppose we found a way to collaborate like that, working on glorifying one ego and tried our best to make it the perfect one, it would still be nothing. Still be nothing. A strange concoction that appears after the waking state comes and disappears when we go to sleep. Forget birth and death. Just waking and sleeping. And that wants to own everything in this state, everything here. Giving, giving, giving. As the true owner of this universe is simply available to us in our simplicity and innocence. Only one of these can be true. God is, or ego is, or person is. Because if God is and there is a person, means that God is a limited God. There is God and there is a person. So both are not possible. And nobody is here to find a limited God.
sometimes, most of the time I feel like I'm on the same page, but sometimes I feel also unsure if I'm on the same page.
Okay, so let's break it down. So this is for both of you then. Which part? God is here or no?
So sometimes it feels like God is here, and at those moments when I feel that God is here, I'm just not sure if that's the same thing that you're talking about. It feels like,
Is it an existent being? Is it a presence within yourself that your mind cannot understand? It's the same one then. The only existent being is God itself. So you cannot get it wrong unless you are just visualizing or imagining something, which I don't feel any of you are doing. The only existent is God. Then the second question could be, if God is here, but I still resist, I get distracted, I value other things, how is that possible? And this happens to all of us. So, but can we see the absurdity in that? So either we get into a sort of lack of faith about what God is worth versus what our story is worth or what things in the world are worth. Or maybe it is just like a forgetting, and the me seems very compulsive. So this part, this seeming oscillation is very normal for everyone. As long as you realize, when you realize that you're fooling yourself and getting back in your stories, you find a way back home to your heart, nothing is lost. Nothing is lost. But one question that must be dropped is, okay, so God is here, then what does it mean for me? Am I a sage now? Am I enlightened? Will I stay like this? You who?
Although in the process of this losing myself in, I find that there are thoughts and there are experiences that I seek.
That you see or seek?
Seek.
Seek.
And mostly I seek to know things that I don't know. Like, why am I wired this way?
Why are you wired this way? Okay, so what is the best case outcome? That you live a life and everything you think you can know, you got to know. And then you die. So, what is the big deal in that?
So now then I seek to know what is that experience of death and who is the experiencer of death.
Yes, and that
I
is
seek
the
to
one
know
I'm
it.
showing you. That is the one I'm showing you.
Yes, but I can't know it.
Of course you can, but not through empirical means, not through traditional means, not through the means that we have described knowing to be. Like, do you know this?
I know the label.
You know the label for it, but do you know it? See? So what does knowing even mean? When you say I want to know, are we talking about an experience, a perceptual experience? Are we talking about a conceptual understanding? And usually that's what we are talking about in the world. But the intuitive knowing, the heart inside, is the only thing that I can say is like true knowledge. To know that I am, I don't need to see and I don't need to think. To know that it is I that I am, I don't need to perceive or think, but I know it. Just like you know it is you that is aware of the perception of this sound. Is something known more than this? Can you know anything more than this I, the true I? The one that is aware of perception. Can you know anything even close to this? Compare the knowing of this with that. It's not in the same realm at all. So this type of knowing, in this strange sort of dream that we are calling life, we have learned to neglect that which is true knowledge, self-knowledge. And we have learned to value that which is ephemeral and is going to go soon. Even when we know things, we forget them and ultimately we will die anyway. So all that knowledge is pointless from a long-term perspective at least. So use the urge to seek inwardly, to seek where all of this comes from. Where is the ability to perceive coming from? Where is the ability to know conceptually coming from? You see? And seek to know this as insight and not more conceptual knowledge or perceptual experience. See? Want to say more on this?
Sometimes difficult, Father.
And most of the times, easy.
It's like insanity. Like I'm
It's
losing my,
complete insanity.
I'm losing my sanity, Father.
You must.
I'm being pushed off the edge, Father.
That's what I'm doing every day. If sanity means taking the unreal to be real and the real to be unreal, then become insane fast.
Don't know what is real, what is not, Father.
Sanity is in the world is to take darkness to be light and light to be darkness. To take that which is time bound to be permanent and that which is eternal to be meaningless. To take nonsensical material things to have a lot of value. But the highest in the universe can wait till post-retirement and last moment of death, just remember, as a cheat code. Yeah? So if this is sanity, then become insane fast. What are you scared of? What will you lose?
No. It's a little difficult.
It's little
Difficult, Father.
difficult. difficult. What is causing the difficulty? What is exactly difficult?
I know it's because of the mind. I know it's the mind which is fighting and resisting, but
The I that knows is which one? It's the one that says, I know, but is also still the mind. So don't buy into the meta mind more than the mind itself. The mind posing as if it is commentating on the mind is still mind only. What's your heart saying? What can you say intuitively from here?
that I'm burning.
Your heart is saying, I'm burning.
It's something burning.
Something is burning. Like bad, in a bad way,
No.
in a good way. What can be burnt? Can truth be burnt?
No.
So if the false is burning, is that good news or bad? That's why most who come to satsang say, burn me, Father, burn it, fully, burn it. But we don't expect that the burning will feel like burning anymore. But it does. To become empty, we must let go. We must let go to become empty. But to let go, we must let go of everything. And there are many things where we don't want to let go. We want God and that. We think we like certain aspects of ourselves. Maybe our comfort, maybe our relationships, maybe what we call our love. Whatever it may be. We want that to continue to persist in our meeting with God. But God is that holy light which will burn everything that is false. If your longing for God is this much, then no point resisting. You might as well let it go. You will not be able to save anything. What do you want to save?
Maybe the mind doesn't know what is there on the other.
The mind wants a guarantee.
Yeah.
I'm letting go of everything, but give me guarantee. It will make God sound like an abyss or like a limbo state. That I'll be left all alone, stranded in limbo. What is the guarantee that I will enjoy it? Risk it. Risk it for me. You say you love me, that I am your master, I am your father. Risk it. Otherwise, this video game will restart anyway soon. So, one life you can risk. This is one of those games where you don't just have 3 lives, you have as many as you want. All I'm asking is that this one life you hand over to me. That's all. Do it or not? It's not going to be difficult.
So Guruji, you mentioned that you have to renounce internally.
Yes.
Could you say more about that?
Yes, to be empty internally, to become an inner renunciate, means to be unattached and unfeverish about anything, about everything.
That is same as renounce that externally also.
Externally, many do it the other way. You see? If they renounce it externally, they may even wear saffron robes, but internally they are full of desire, full of attachment. So I'm saying the reverse. Now do it, become unattached internally. Now whether your external life is of King Janaka or of a beggar, I don't care about that.
For example, if you have the desire of eating tasty food, you have to live externally also. I mean, there is nothing internally you renounce.
Internally become empty of it. And if in God's light it moves you towards the best tasting food, I don't know whether I should be saying this. Actually, when you're living in God's light, even normal tasting food becomes very tasty. Actually, have you noticed? Very good. Very good. So if that unfolds in that way, that you're brought into situations where you end up tasting the best tasting food, that's fine. But you have to have integrity about it. Like many of us just become like Advaita in our speaking. It's just like, oh, Grace got me this baklava, which was so good. And, so I ate it. I didn't want it. But you have to be true to yourself. Would you suffer without it? That is the test of feverishness. What would you suffer without? If I told you one thing that you could never have after this, what would make you suffer the most?
God.
Huh?
You said you can't have God.
God, okay. Anything in the world, because I would join you in that suffering. But, yeah.
In this journey or this process of inner renunciation, what is the role, or is there a role of duty and to do things?
Yes. Your primary duty is to follow what I'm saying. If you truly say I'm your master, then follow what I'm saying. That is your number one duty. So be unattached.
So mind is asking, but what is that?
Just follow everything I'm saying. Don't be attached to your narrative firstly, and then elements of your narrative, including the seeker identity and all your evaluations of the seeming self which is seeking God. They all have to be given up. You have to return to the innocence of a child. And it is your duty to follow this, because actually, even if you did not consider me your master, I have given you the possibility that no one else in the world is offering you, isn't it? Which is the discovery of God itself. And I'm saying in return for that, I want you to risk your life fully. But to take that bet is up to you. But if you consider me your master, then I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Give it up. Either way, even intellectually it makes sense. Because even if you met somebody, a random stranger walking on the road who said you can find God, you see, and in return you have to do this. How will you evaluate that? Is that one a trickster? Is that one mad, crazy, deluded? Is that one, does that one, as a trickster, have vested interest from you? Or is that one a liar of some sort? Then you would say, no, go away from me. But if you cannot, but I would say you must evaluate such an offer fully seriously. You have the offer to find God, and in return, something which is not even yours to start with is being asked. So really you're not giving up on anything truly, just false notions. Such an offer should be taken very seriously, unless you can determine that there's something shady about this guy. Because not many will make such an offer to you.
Guruji, in continuation to what I asked, like action on my part to do the external renunciation, that I know. But for the internal renunciation, the only action that I can find is prayer. There's
Okay?
nothing else in my hand to do that.
Then pray. Pray, and the remaining time remain empty. Pray to remain empty, and in the remaining time remain empty. That's not a bad life. And Amma hiding from it. Now what's your move? Run or die?
With this run or die thing, like, from you I've never felt like running all these
Yes.
satsangs. But I just said like this Sadguru thing knows
Sir?
exactly the inner
Yes.
Sadguru.
Yeah.
It knows exactly what you're attached to.
Yeah.
And has asked at times. And that I terrified of going there. Not
Explain
always,
that more.
but sometimes.
So you never felt like running in satsang. Then you said that the inner Sadguru within you knows exactly what you are attached to,
Yeah. Ask for that.
and your
Ask
mind
to give
prays for that, or you pray for that, or you ask for that. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that this thing knows exactly what I'm attached to.
Yes.
And so it knows what to ask to give up.
Uh-huh.
And
So you know
that's-
what needs to be given up because you're attached to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why I want to run away. I felt it. I want to run away from this.
Yeah. Run away from giving that up, or run away from that which you're attached to.
Giving it up. Because
From giving it
because
up.
it asks me to.
And what is it?
I tell you, it knows exactly. And and I have some like maybe don't talk, say anything to me again if I don't give it. What happens if I didn't follow?
Okay, so can we for a moment look at what I mean by giving it up? To not be attached. It means just let thoughts about it come and go. Not convert them into a desire or an aversion, which is the same thing.
That's
That's
easy
all.
part. The giving up thoughts is easy.
Yeah.
When it tells you to give up something in the world,
Yeah.
that is,
Let's explore this. So giving up thoughts is easier than giving up something in the world?
yeah.
Take any example, it doesn't have to be your thing which you want to tell me privately. So without a thought of that being grasped, you're still attached to that.
Like suppose if the Sadguru President was to say cut off your arm.
Yeah. And you're not attached to your thoughts about not having an arm or having an arm internally. Then you would still say that is more difficult to cut off your arm?
It is, in that case it is because I don't know.
Yeah. Because I want to submit to all of you, to propose to all of you that the greatest addiction we have is to our thoughts.
I think I can say Guruji on that. So, and exactly, so thought of giving it up was much scarier than actually giving.
Yeah.
Much more. if you are there and present at that particular moment, that when actual giving it comes, it was not that difficult. The thought of giving it, you always make scenarios, what will happen, what will not happen, if it's not there.
It is a thought, Father. What the thought was, what will it ask next? Because
What
it
will he
knows
ask for
exactly-
next?
Yeah, yeah.
What else do you have?
I
That's
don't
what
know,
he'll
this
ask
was
for.
so difficult, so what else? It knows everything, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as you.
Would you
about-
prefer a Sadguru who didn't? You just hide from. ये नहीं बताते हमको.
No, I think even I am stuck there. If you ask me to stay overnight here and tomorrow morning you will give me God, probably I won't stay.
You won't stay.
I don't know. I'm start thinking what I will tell my family. Everybody will ask question. When
If I said to you, stay overnight here, tomorrow I will give you God, you'll still run off.
practically, what I'm going to say, how do I going to face?
You
my
see,
family?
tomorrow morning I'm finding God. Shut up.
No, simple thing. You call me at midnight and say Amul come.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will come or not that time.
My guru is calling me. I have to go. Shut up.
No, those thoughts, I think I can relate with what he's saying.
फिर तो वो अंगूठा and arm and all is दूर की बात.
Not very far. No, so again, thought is different. If you ask Anguta and all, it's like me personally, myself.
You ask?
Anguta and all is
Ah,
right? So it's again games.
Well, how would that be? Because if I said to you, if you stay overnight, you get $1 million. Huh?
Can't stay.
So either that's what I'm saying. That either God is not the God. No? Either it's just like something is undervaluing that somewhere. No? Because what is $1 million in front of God?
Is it like onus is on me?
Yeah.
All compulsion of external factors really doesn't matter if I just make up.
Yeah.
And other factors really cannot stop me.
Really?
Isn't what you're saying?
Yes, because I'm not. That's why I'm saying I'm not asking for anything outwardly. But inwardly, nobody can come, and your wife cannot get in there and say, "Don't give up on this" on the inside, isn't it?
So what I also felt regarding some of the habits which I discussed with you
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
So whatever excuses I was giving, OCD, this, that,
Yeah.
one, it felt like it's really, I just want to go and do it. That's
Oh.
all. All the other things looks like
It's just the feverishness talking.
I told either do it, accept consequences, or don't do it if you don't want the consequences. And don't put it on taking it.
You had a question earlier. Is it gone?
No, I still have it. I think that, we all go through, mind states where even if you're thinking through your intuition or you're thinking through your mind, there are states of clarity and states of confusion, right? But if you're going through a particular challenging circumstance where your mind has completely taken over, and no matter how good you sometimes feel in satsang when you're in that environment, it's sometimes very difficult to get out of the grasp of your mind. And it's something I've struggled with, and in that moment in time, no matter how much clarity you have about being one with God, being God yourself, is quite difficult. And I was just trying to understand if over time there is a better way to kind of ease into the intuitive state. I don't know if that makes sense.
So you're right that there are some times where the mind has us. It has us. There's no escape. But can we truly say that all the other times we are in the heart? That is what we need to start with. The mind will fixate about those times where the mind has you anyway and say no point till you can do it at those times. I am telling you the opposite. You see? Start with the other times. Because not even the most powerful mind has you all the time. Even in the midst of the greatest difficulties, there will be some moments when not fully in its grasp. So can we use those moments to meet God in our heart? Start with those, and that itself will expand. That will expand. So see the mind trick which tells you that you have to be able to do it then, only then is it worthwhile. You see? Otherwise it is pointless. But actually it's not true. Start with those times where it's not got us so strongly. Start with that moment. One moment is a good start. One moment. And then you'll see that becomes more and more natural, and the gravitation needed to pull you out from that, from the mind, will seem to be more and more difficult for the mind now. But you have to start moment to moment, every moment. And then when you realize you got caught up again, then don't fixate on feeling guilty and unworthy and see, I'm not able to do it. All of that then continues to perpetuate the same thing. You have a moment where you're released from the grip. Meet God then. That is the way to use your term, to ease into this in some way. No, there'll be a very rare one who can just, I give this instruction to, and they just, very, very, in fact, not happened in 12 years, where I've just told someone, be empty of the mind, boom. So it's like that. The second point I want to address is that clarity or lack of clarity is only in the mind intellect. You cannot be clear or unclear intuitively. Those phases and opposites are not there in your intuition. So the idea that you could be clear or unclear even in your heart is not true. These are just states of the mind itself. So in the heart, it's not that you're trying to hold on to something when you're in the heart that can then be blurred. Like only when we think, like you may come to satsang and get a sense of some understanding, and then we feel like, oh, it's clear now. It's clear. Then something comes in the world, or you hear someone else, something happens, and the stability of the sturdiness of the conceptual house of cards seems to get shaken, and we call that the lack of clarity or blurriness or cloudiness. You see, but it all happens only here, not here. Because it doesn't have states. It is not changing, it is not. At best, you could say that it is deepening. See, maybe we can say it's deepening, but we can never say that I became unclear in my heart. Unclear is only when we've gone to the head.
I mean, another method, for lack of a better word, that has been used or I've been taught or other people talk about is, oh, there's an earthquake in Turkey, so what are you complaining about? Look at those people suffering. Yeah, in that moment, if you ask yourself that question, your suffering is almost laughable. But that doesn't stay, right? And I'm just curious why that doesn't stick. I don't expect it to. I have some intuitive understanding that it's kind of a false attempt to try to make sense of your life by using some external reminder that you should be okay, and it doesn't work. But do you have a sense of why that doesn't work?
Yeah. Actually, no practice always works.
Yeah, it's like all these rule-based stoic philosophy. It's like nothing has really worked.
Yes. Just moment to moment, if you're drawn to something and that makes us open and empty, that's good enough, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I was telling Majid, was it, where I was saying that if for you juggling 3 rocks makes you open and empty, then that's your spiritual practice.
Right.
It's good enough. But these things don't become, no, I was telling someone else, but these things mostly we see don't always work, and they may change even day to day.
Yeah.
That which seems so potent, you know, like Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. One day it can seem so potent, and next day it's just like, yeah.
So on that, for example, music does that for me.
Yeah.
But then the self-doubt comes like, oh, like to your question, can you give up music?
Yeah.
And then will you suffer? So yes, I'll suffer. So I don't know. Music makes me open and empty
Yeah.
most of the time. I would say 99% of the time, and it's my kind of go-to. It's very unstructured. I have no thought. I'm in flow, and I can go for hours. There's no boredom. So everything is good about it.
Yeah.
But when I ask this question that you asked, if you give it up, will I suffer? I think I will suffer.
I will usually not ask you to give up that which makes you open, which
Okay.
makes you empty.
Okay. So it's a good addiction to have. Of all the addictions.
Yes, but if I can prod you a little more, I'll say that does it make you empty of yourself to an extent that all you then care about is God, all you then care about is your true self or the presence? It's very good. But music is a spiritual practice for me. I'm completely agnostic, or mostly. I'm sure one of you can invent something absurd which will say no, but I'm mostly agnostic to what method you want to use to come to this openness. You catch a cold.
Anantaji, there's this misconception, I think, that's playing here. And it's constantly dragging me out from the presence. And it actually relates to that question you said, what is it that the mind uses? I forget the question, but I said God. If you take God away.
Yeah, what will make you suffer?
Yeah.
If I told you to give it up.
And I realize the only thing that ever causes me to suffer is when my attention leaves this presence and goes out towards something phenomenal.
Okay.
And there's a belief that there's something within the phenomenal realm that's causing that. And so now the mind takes a position of, I must remove that thing, I must be on watch for that thing so that I can finally be with God.
Okay. So let's experiment with this. Try to suffer just by moving your attention.
That has to be belief.
It's impossible. Attention inwardly, seemingly inwardly, or seemingly outwardly cannot make us suffer just with attention alone. Try to suffer without a thought, without believing a thought. It's not possible. So, it's not so much a question of attention, because in pure perception, who you are is fully apparent to you. So remain in pure perception. What I mean by pure perception is perception unadulterated by labels and narratives and understanding. Who you are is fully apparent to you.
So that choice is always with the witness.
The choice
to not stretch with interest. To abide there and not follow the interest or the belief.
Yes.
And there's nothing I need to do to have that power. In any condition, God is there.
Yes.
Even if my brain is, well, that's a difference. So like if I have a car accident and my brain isn't fully functioning, can God still be accessed by my heart?
Yes.
You know, it feels like I really feel in such a claustrophobia at times because I know that this voice shouldn't be followed and I need to just honor God.
Yeah. Did you get the main point about attention first? That wherever your attention may go, it cannot cloud your self-knowledge, cannot cloud the apparency of your self-knowledge. Who you are is fully apparent to you if you're looking without mental adulteration at anything, or you're fully in a samadhi where the whole perceptual world has disappeared. This is a radical point because most are trying to control their attention. And of course, it's fine to control your attention because if your attention is not on thoughts, then there's no question of believing them. But belief or letting the absence of belief, identification, letting go, surrender seems much more simple than trying to get mastery over attention.
So to understand what other person is saying, or let's say if I'm watching television and to understand what's going on there, I have to give more than attention.
To understand, okay.
Understand the story.
Okay, just don't give any belief, okay? And just keep watching. You knew what is happening? I don't need to say glass, cup, and then tea, and then drinking, to drink from the glass, from the cup. You may not be able to make a narrative out of it. You may not be able to reproduce it in words for a friend. But there is no knowledge missing. True knowledge is inherent already in you without needing that phone call from your mind saying, hello, this is what he's doing. Don't need that.
And to respond to somebody's question uh, or to interact socially,
Yeah.
I not have to give more than attention to things.
Yes. You don't have to, because your heart can also speak if words are needed. So when I say we must, okay, so let's put everything on track. So God is here. God can be found. You are finding God. Now you must abide in God's light or presence. And to abide in God's presence is to follow God's will. What does it mean to follow God's will? The first aspect of following God's will is to allow the presence to unfold naturally without mental intervention. And the second aspect is when you start to receive God's guidance in your heart, in what I've been calling like a holy whisper, then we must follow that unconditionally as well. So that is, I hate making steps, but if you were to try and make steps to what is being said, this is a simple way to say. If it is impossible to, is this a social interaction? Let's suppose that this is a social interaction. So I am telling you that these words are coming from my heart without mental intervention or pausing to think or figuring out what to say next. Just allowing the heart to use this mouth, heart to mouth communication. So the heart can do it. So how to live in the world, what to say in the world, right and wrong, everything depends on whether it is coming from the heart or head, whether you're living in the planet of the heart or on the planet of the head. That's all.
Actually, it takes out all the fun of it.
Fun?
Fun part of watching movies out if you are watching it without it.
Try one movie. Okay, just try one movie and tell me if you had fun. Then you will feel like all the sages, no, all these people on the world, they just had these robotic lives. You're all meaningless. Meaningless. No, but true meaning is found in the heart. I don't feel I met anyone before I met Guruji. After I received what he gave me, only then I felt like I truly met anyone. I was only meeting projections before that. Ideas and impressions and judgments. So I don't feel like I ever enjoyed a flower or really saw a flower or tasted any food or saw anything before I came to this. Because all my attention was dissipated in thoughts, trying to grasp, understand what's in it for me. See, my attention is so limited. It takes away from the taste of the world when we try to think and perceive at the same time. So it's not true that the movie cannot be enjoyed.
I enjoyed Pathan without my mind.
That is the only way to enjoy such a movie. And the absurdity of this waking state is no less than Pathan. Although we found all sort of rational explanation for this, but there's no rationality. What are you doing here? Listening to this strange man. Who can explain? Your mind may have rationalized various things. Some of you have flown from far off lands to be here in the noisy Bangalore in the middle of traffic. It's not rational.
I have to go. I had plans to go around 6:45 because my relatives have been invited. My parents are here, so I've been struggling. I just want to go now, but somehow at present I just cannot. Got a message from mom when I.
What happened? There'll be time for God later. No, I'm not making it.
So difficult.
I also had the experience of meeting many of my relatives over the past few weeks and days. And for the first time, I've just been communicating openly, saying, "Don't waste your life. God is
I
here."
think one of your videos on
Yeah.
you were saying.
I said in the prayer meeting for my father, where everybody was like, "Oh, but he became the president of IBM, and then he became this, and he came from and his education that, and he got 300 people jobs, and he helped the village so much, and all of that." So I just wanted to stand up and say, there's something even much more valuable than all of this. Much more valuable, and we must not waste our life without finding that. All of the rest is just part of this ephemeral play, and the roller coaster of life will take care of all of these things. We must not waste our time. So what you heard was after like at least 25, 30 speeches
I
about
would love to.
the other stuff.
Has that been recorded?
Huh?
Your prayer meetings.
So it is this much, very little.
It's recorded.
And also I met such beautiful people at Chanda's workshop, where like 40, 50 workers were there, and when I sat down to speak with them for a minute, I was just like, I have never spoken with an audience like this. I have no idea what I'm going to say. We just started to flow. They asked questions. They had so much innocence about them that I felt like my heart really went out to them and embraced them. And I was feeling like I wanted to stay a few days and just talk to them. There's a recording of that as well.
The Hindi one with the locals.
Yeah. So we went from my village, which is very rustic and just a typical village by all standards, into Chanda very graciously hosted us in her place, and that's a very, very beautiful house, very luxurious, and probably the best house I've ever stepped in. And I was saying this in a very good way, that actually nothing really changed. The love, the presence was so much felt in both these places. That all that perceptual difference doesn't actually make that much difference. Both environments were just so sweet and present that they were enjoyed fully. So don't have this fear about not enjoying life anymore, or movies anymore. Because the only way to know good and bad is where it comes from. So I don't know about 100%. I don't know about 100%, but and all those things which I may be still hesitating about are being shown up more and more over the last few months to see and to transcend in that way. And that is a deepening of faith. To the mind, this kind of talk can be very scary. But as your faith deepens, then it starts with very simple things. Like I've had so many satsangs. There were times where I was doing satsang every day over 12 years, and not once has this voice let me down. It's not let me down ever. So that is a deepening of faith. If it has helped me for so many years, of course there's so much trust and faith in that. So as we start living by it, the development of trust also happens more and more. I'm not saying tomorrow you must just, because I also want to give you time so that you can truly assimilate in your heart, because many times the mind will pose as if it is your heart, and you need to have, in a way, practice of having lived from the heart for a while before you get into some radical sort of thing. So the heart is the best teacher, and it knows all of these things as well.
Like about that, whether it's from the mind or the heart, you were given one tip, like who is this for? And something came up. I asked who is this for? Where did my attention go? I thought that was the answer to it. It was in the heart.
The highest tip to determine whether it's heart or mind is who you are apparent to you or not. If who you are is apparent to you, it is from the heart. Because as you use the mind, in the hypnosis of the mind, your self-knowledge seems to get lost. It seems to get blurred. So, of course, we can say many other things. Is there a sense of love, peace? Is it in a rush or is it grasping? You can use all of these. But I feel the highest pointer is you are being intuitive if you remain in the apparency of self-knowledge and this guidance is arising within you.
Father, your recent loss with your own mother. Just wondering how it was internally for you.
How it was?
Yeah.
In that.
You had to act outside for social norms. You had to act, or it naturally cried also, or naturally okay inside. How it went.
So I noticed that I was fine mostly, and I feel like thankfully with God's grace I did not have to put on any sort of act or anything of that sort. I won't even know how to do that anymore. I feel it's too tough. So how it played out is that throughout most of the day I was fine. I feel just every day for like a minute or two I had these crying spurts that gave outlet to the grief to just flow out. And otherwise it was fine. There were some like somber times. We were also as relatives sitting around joking about things. I was joking with someone saying there's this much difference only between funeral and wedding. when relatives gather. Yeah? It can seem like on paper very different, but then everybody soon realizes that even the one who we are grieving would not want us to be sitting only morose all the time. So it can sound like a very absurd thing to say, but there were many times of laughter and joking as well. And there were many times just where somebody in the family started crying and they were remembering him. So, yeah. You can really trust the heart to unfold in the way which I don't want to say best, because then best can be based on a mental benchmark. So the question then really is, have you found God? Or no?
Check.
Yeah. But what does it seem? What would your response have been?
Yes, no.
Yes, no. No.
Yes.
What is the yes part? Okay, let's forget that question. Is God here now from your direct experience? And I know you know the right answer, but truly, as lived inside, as living inside, is God here now?
So for me, it would be, for example, that the sense of person is not here.
Yes. But is God here?
That's all I can say. See.
The person is not here, but you are there. That is God. There is no difference between Atma and Paramatma. That which seems to be the individualized self is actually the universal self. Otherwise, you would be able to determine a boundary for your presence, for your being. But you can't do that. And you can also confirm that everything that you perceive is happening within you, within that being. So you have not experienced a world outside of yourself, of your being. Is God here now?
I need some more help on as you said, the presence is there, and I cannot see any boundary for that. So as you said, yes. But still, when you said everything else, everything is part of that being, including the others. That is, I think my mind is trying to.
Okay, so let's break it into two steps. First, let's forget about what is the actual state of everything else. Where it is, what is happening to it, let's forget about that. At least can we confirm that every experience we are having about everything is within us? Where it actually is, let's leave that alone for a moment. But the experience of it we can confirm is within us?
Within the being?
Yeah. Even in the world, if you ask this question, they will say, yes, my eyes are receiving it, and then retina does something. Even then they would say within us, of course, they would say things like, my brain and all of that nonsense stuff. But here you can confirm that every experience is only experience within your being. Now, intuitively, you will get the sense that there is no difference between the existence of anything and the experience of it. Its existence is only what your experience is. There is no existence of it other than your experience of it, and you may testify to that truly if I was to say this is a dream, because you can conclude that about your dreams, you see. But you may not be, it may seem like speculation for you to say that about the waking state. And that is fine at this point, till intuitively you have a sense that all there is just appears within me without an ability to rationalize it conceptually.
So does that mean that whatever I've ever known is always part of me?
Yes. Everything that can never be known is only within you.
In my mind. So
Hmm?
within mine and within yours is two different within, is it?
If this was a dream, you would say, yes, I had a dream of you, Father, last night. Sometimes I get this report. You came in my dream last night. It means that within your dream, there was an appearance of a body-mind character that you would call Ananta or whatever. But you realized that it was within your being. Now, my intuitive insight is that this is no different than that. But there's no way we can rationally explain that. So it's beyond rational understanding. So you have to wait for your intuition also to confirm it in that way. And therefore, when all the sages have said this, then they are only referring to their intuitive insight, which they trust more than what their rational mind is telling them. So when it is said that the scriptures were heard, they were heard, Shruti, then what does it mean? Heard from where? Not from a sound from the sky, it was heard intuitively. It was heard intuitively. And you notice in the world that that which is written in a mental way has a very short lifespan. But that which has been written with God's hand in this way, heard intuitively, although people may scoff at it, may be skeptical, may never believe, but those seem to last a long, long time. They never seem to fade away, those writings. Everything else has a flavor of the month type thing, except that it is written by the hand of God. And you can look at it across cultures, across traditions, religions, all coming to the same point. And all that is being said here. One of my cousins, actually, his wife shares satsang in a small place called Muzaffarnagar. So she shares satsang, and some of my relatives were asking her, what does Bhaiya do? What is his satsang like? So she said to him that it is adharmic, which initially I didn't like the word so much. What she was trying to say that it is not religious, it's not a religious discourse or sermon or something like that. It is not religious in that way. What I would love to have told her actually is like, I consider myself to be sarvadharmik. Like I believe all religions. Everything where I get the scent of God, my I'm on my knees following that. So I don't consider myself unreligious. If there were 10 different roads to go to the house of your beloved, would you say, no, I will pick only one and only use that? The road is not important. It is the beloved that is important. Most of humanity has always been busy building houses on roads instead of taking the road to where it takes you till the very end. You want to identify with the road. You want to say, this is my path. And once it becomes my path, then it becomes the best path, obviously. Because it's my path. It's not like that. Every path has good and bad. Every road has some good parts and bad parts. But the point is not the road. It is the destination. What is it pointing to? What difference does it make if you call it the Sadguru presence and another calls it the Holy Spirit? No difference. The important thing is, have you met it? Not what you choose to call it. If I call it Atma, another calls it Ruh. There's no difference. The labels don't matter. And it is the nature of the mind to cause so much division and everything. So we got a sweet question from one of the workers in Chanda's workshop. He said, please help me, it's so confusing. I'm translating from Hindi. He said, it's so confusing. Somebody says pray to Shiva, another says pray to Vishnu. And then we say that if you pray to Shiva, then Vishnu will get upset. If you pray to Vishnu, then Shiva gets upset. What are we supposed to do? And sometimes praying to this one helps, sometimes praying that one helps. What are we supposed to do? Then I gave a longer answer, but the crux of it was that if God was egotistical in this way, then God is just like humans. There's no need to pray to such a God who gets upset. So don't buy any nonsense about God getting upset if you pray to another aspect. The second thing is that the highest in every tradition it is very clear that there is one God who is Nirgun, Nirakar, attributeless, formless. But because in the human condition we don't yet have the capacity to meet God in that way, therefore whatever aspect is most appealing to us, that has been made available to us. So feel free to go with whatever your heart resonates with. There's a lot of misunderstanding and mental resistance in the world. And after having traveled this much, I feel like I should travel some more actually. So many may be suffering from these very simple sort of problems which seem very big actually. Because they hear from seemingly credible sources that, oh, you must pray only like this, otherwise the other god gets angry, or this god will get angry if you pray to another one. All absurd stuff.
Can you describe the interaction between you and that beautiful man at Vinkarali Baba?
Yeah.
He's there.
So we went to, on the outskirts of Rishikesh, there's a beautiful Neem Karoli Baba ashram. They have a huge statue of Hanuman. So I felt after the ceremony was over, we felt like, let's go there. So when we went there, I just felt like this man was there. He was a bit indifferent to start with, but then as he saw us moving and just quietly, something he started feeling. And then as I was sitting inside, he got me a blanket to sit on. Maybe he asked one of you, I don't know, whether he asked one of you and said, who is this? What's happening here? But he just came like that. And then when I was talking to him later, he just started saying things like, I was very worried about this thing, but now you have come and it'll all be fine. I'm so happy to meet you and things. And then he took us to a section of the ashram which is not open. He took us to a section where Neem Karoli, Baba's closest disciple, she used to give darshan and she used to live. That was close to and on a different floor. So he took us there and he was talking to us very beautifully. And I felt in my heart so much connection with him. Although the words we spoke were very little, but I felt like we've known each other for a long time. So they were very kind to us. Everywhere we went, we were met with such kindness and beauty. And first, like Chaitanya ji came to meet us from Rishikesh. So first they told him, no, you can't serve snacks here and all of that. At the end of the visit, they were just like, yeah, please feel free. So you're having samosa, all these things, and they also got us chai, and it became a very sweet visit by the end. Those who are attracted to God in their heart are naturally bound to feel some affinity to the presence. So at the Anandmi Ashram, we were received with a lot of love actually. They gave us a big bag of prasad. Very sweet.
What Father is not telling you is the humility and the utter humility which he has. And in that presence of that heart connection which he's saying, I mean the compassion which is felt, God's compassion becomes so alive. I feel like never can you be abandoned by God. Never. It's just so much compassion and when he was leading all of these people. And his utter humility just makes you feel like, what does this ego even have? One thing to be proud about? There's even one thing you can be like, Mother, your humility is really just too. Just something like the compassion. God's compassion, your compassion.
Okay, better stop talking now before I get a swollen head and all the
No, you
humility
can
goes.
never have a swollen. It's us who are some swollen.
It's impossible to be in the presence of such shining lights like Neem Karoli Baba and Anand Mahima and to still take yourself to be something. It's impossible. Did I answer everything you asked for?
Always. Guruji, when Krishna mentioned about that he's that bit where everything is within him. So he's talking about the being that he has experienced.
He is the being itself. He is the being itself.
It's the same being you are trying to show us through presence of being and which is part of the being.
Yes. But we can never, at least, okay, so I have to say that I can never compare myself to, and I feel like we must never compare ourselves to the likes of Krishna, Jesus, all of these things, because at one level we can say that we are one with the highest self, and whatever we may say, higher than that also. But at another level, it's as true to say that to even be able to utter the name of Krishna is a privilege and an honor. It is the only thing which makes this living this human condition worthwhile is that we can remember God, we can pray to God, we can meet God in this way, we can utter the name God or Krishna or Ram or Jesus or Allah. So that's why I'm every kind of Advaita Vedantin also. I'm not just a Keval Advaitin, but also Veda, Veda. as we start to realize that which we are invoking, as we start to realize that more and more within ourselves, we actually also become more and more astounded by the privilege and the honor it is to be able to even invoke God or pray to God. And sometimes I feel like a complete Dvaitin, not even a Advaitin. I just feel like the highest is if God gives me a tiny place at His feet. That itself is beyond any expectation. And other times I can say that even God takes births within myself. So basically you become insane pretty fast. Lose your sanity quickly. Somebody tell me, what is your system? I'm completely lost. What is my system? Then I naturally still go to, like, somebody asks me in the village, what do you share? So I naturally still say Advaita Vedanta. Just habit. It's coming here to say that I feel a more genuine answer at the moment is I just share my love for God, whatever form it takes.
If you are being then you are you.
Yeah. Yes and no. And both. The most useless servant of God and the birthplace of God at the same time. Actually, the question itself is not that important. What I am is not so important. It's the fact that God is important. सतगुरु श्री मुजी बाबा की गुरु कृपा के So how to live in God's will? Don't leave your bed unless you're living in the presence already. So even if that means that you spend your whole day in bed and you have one moment of being in God's presence and then you go back to sleep, that day would be more worthwhile than spending the entire day doing a lot of fantastic things in the world but not living in God's presence at all. Sometimes, of course, you wake up and you feel that you're already so naturally in God's light, you're not in the hypnosis of any thought. But many of you report that early in the morning is when the mind tries to attack the most, tries to grab you. Because it's also attempting to do the reverse of what I'm saying. Grab you in the beginning of the day itself and give you that momentum, that mind momentum for the whole day. So if you follow something simple like that, just don't leave your bed till God's light is apparent to you. And then stay in that. And when you go to the mind, when you notice you went to the mind, just gently return back. No analysis, no postmortem, no guilt, no unworthiness. Just return. Sleep in God's presence, in God's light, till naturally even that gets dissolved into pure awareness itself. Deep sleep state.
I find when you asked, is God here now? When I ask this question, then I can use all my mind's power to say no, but I can't say no.
Yes.
It's so simple. And,
Yes.
and you can ask this any moment,
Yes.
irrespective of what mind is doing.
Yes.
And mind has no power to say no.
Yes.
And if God is here, then what else matters?
Exactly.